Okay, we're now on day 65. It's Deuteronomy 21 through 23. Um, chapter 21, 1 through 9. Some of the weird nonsense on how to figure out what city a person resided in that killed a person. If they don't know, like it says here, if you find a person in an open field or open on the land, to figure out if they don't know who did it, so just letting it go, you're to figure out which city is the closest, and then you just assume that's of the city where the person who killed him resides. Then the elders of that city shall put a heifer that has never been put to work and bring it down to a wadi. I didn't look that up what that meant. And cut the heifer's throat. And I guess this is I don't know what it's supposed to, what was that even supposed to do? I don't know, rectify this? How does it rectify the situation? So his name in every case of dispute must be settled then. All the elders of the city nearest the corpse wash their hands over the heifer whose throat was cut and declare, our hands did not shed this blood and our eyes did not see the deed. In other words, they didn't do it and they didn't witness who did it. And say some magical chant, and it says they'll be absolved of the bloodshed. What? What does that even mean? How does that work? That's so dumb. Why? Okay, now, for your daily dose of misogyny, you cannot leave an Old Testament reading without getting some misogyny every day. So, chapter 21, verse 10 to 14. When, we already went through this, when the Jews went to war, they were to kill all the men, and depending on which verse you read, some verses leave it ambiguous, but some verses say, or a verse says that you're supposed to kill all the women who were not virgins, keep all the children, male and female, keep all the cattle, and depending on which verse again, I think some said keep the virgin cattle too, I think. And keep the children, keep the virgin women. And the virgin women were to be sex slaves. Now, it says here in, again, 21, verse 10 to 14, when you go to, when you take in the female slave that you want to become your sex slave, then you're supposed to give her a whole month of mourning for the loss of her family, her tribe, her friends, her relatives. And she's to shave her head and cut her nails and lay aside her captive's garb. I don't know what the captive's garb would be. And so you give them a whole month, and then after that, she's your wife. You can rape her whenever you want. And then if later on, it says later on, if you don't like her, you have to give her freedom. Just give her freedom. You don't have to give her anything else, just her freedom, so she can wander homeless. And you can't sell her to, let's see, you can't sell her to another person as their slave, but you have to let her go. It says that she was married to you under compulsion. Why not just ban the practice altogether? Why not just ban the practice where women have to be married to men they don't want to be married to? instead, we'll make a rule that protects them if the men don't want them anymore. What? Okay. Let's see. 21:15 through 17. If a man dislikes his wife, instead of saying, well, she should divorce you, or she shouldn't have been forced to marry you in the first place, it says here that you shouldn't take it out on her sons, her firstborn. If the woman you dislike, the wife you dislike, gives you your firstborn son, because daughters don't matter, they're just for sex, then you're not to withhold the heritage from that son. Like the firstborn son gets the most out of the heritage, the inheritance. When the father dies, you're not supposed to withhold that to him. And, it says here you can't divorce your wife because you don't like her. You don't like her as much as your other wife. It's like, huh? Whatever. And then verse 20, or chapter 21:18 through 21. If a man has a stubborn and unruly son, it says, you're to take him to the city gates, declare him as whatever your offense is. Is he a drunk? Is he lazy? Is he stubborn? Or is he just not listening to you? And then all the people in the city stone him to death. We have a lot of stoned to death men in the United States. If we could just do that today. Anyways. Now in chapter 22. Verse 6 through 7. I wrote down, it seems a lot of these laws are based on superstitions. A lot of them says at the end, let's see, 6 through 7. It talks about, if there's a bird sitting on a bunch of eggs, on the young birds, on little chicks, then don't take the mother and the chicks. You can take the chicks, but let the mother go. I don't know why. But it does say in chapter 7, you shall let her go, although you may take her brood away. It is thus that you shall have prosperity and a long life. Seems like more of a superstition than anything. Chapter 22, verse 9 to 11. There's a lot of things that it says not mixing. For example, in these verses, it says you shouldn't sow your vineyard with two different kinds of seeds. Previous it said that in your fields you shouldn't mix the seeds. Our modern gardens would be an abomination because we have our row of cabbage right next to our row of corn, which is right next to our row of peas, and you're not supposed to do that. But in the field too. It's not just in the vineyard. In any field, you're supposed to plant one crop. It also says don't plow the ox with the ass. Harness together. Don't wear clothing of mixed fabric. Something real odd. You should put twisted cords in the four corners of the cloak that you wrap around. Let me see. It's on the robes of, I don't know, that last one, I just had to read that because it just seems odd to have been thrown in there. But anyways, my point is about the mixed animals and the mixed seeds and the mixed fabrics. It's kind of like a wink to their mixed race marriages, that you shouldn't do that. I think that's kind of a wink and a nod to that, to the bans that they put on that. Just a bunch of racism back here in the Old Testament. And it does say here, if the grape seeds are mixed during planting, then the produce is to go to the priests. Again, here we go, the priests profiting. The priests are becoming fat and wealthy off the tribe. Now let's see. Chapter 22, verse 13 through 21 had probably put a lot of women to death. This shouldn't have even been to begin with. I mean, they didn't base man's worth on their virginity. Men were allowed to have as many wives and girlfriends as they could. They could whore around all they want. But the women were supposed to be virgins when they got married. And one of the things was the hymen myth. Now, they didn't know that there was a hymen. I don't know if they knew about, the flap of the fold of skin that was supposedly there, and the bleeding or whatever. But they knew about the bleeding, but I don't think they knew how it came about. It does say here that chapter 22, 13 through 21, that if a woman or, hold on, I lost my period, that if there was no blood shown, if a man goes to the priest or the elders and says, the woman I married wasn't a virgin when I married her, then the parents of the woman had to, I guess, I don't know, were they witnessing the sex act? I don't know, do they stand outside the door? I hear in some Muslim communities they still do that, where the parents stand outside the door and wait for the sheet with the blood on it, which is almost always faked. From what I hear, is almost always faked. I've heard story after story about women who fake the blood on the sheet. They just kind of cut their thumb or something and then put a couple drops of blood on the sheet. Anyway, so the parents of the daughter would come with the proof of blood on the sheet and say, look, here's the blood from her, from her being, having sex for the first time on her marriage night. Most women are not born with a true hymen. This is a myth that some people still believe, that this is, that, bluebird. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you'll be able to see that bluebird. You see it? I don't know where it went now. Yeah, you can hear that. Anyways, I'm gonna back now. It's flash growing. Well, anyways, even if most women aren't born with a true hymen, and a lot of times the hymen will be so thin and so feeble that it'll just stretch out. Even if it's there, it'll stretch out and there'll be no tearing, so there'll be no blood. And even if there is a blood, it's usually just a couple drops and wouldn't even make a show. There would be no, or it'd be so faint you wouldn't be able to tell. Because it's just a tiny bit of blood. If there was even, which like I said, most of the time there isn't, because there is no true hymen. Some man came up with the hymen myth, and you know how it is. When a man says it's true, everybody believes it. When a woman says, hey, that's not true, they don't believe her. So anyways, so a lot of women were probably put to death. Let's see, I will not find your daughter a virgin. But if the charge is true, they shall bring the girl to the entrance and shall stone her to death. Now the man can slut around all he wants before marriage. It doesn't matter. But if the woman can't prove, she was a virgin with the blood, then she's put to death. How is that? The Bible, like Matt Dillahunty says in one of his videos, the Bible hates women. And it makes it pretty clear. 22, chapter 22 through 28. Here's another daily dose of misogyny. If a man is discovered having relations with a woman who is married to another, both the man and the woman shall die. And I'm assuming this means stoned to death. I do a lot of ums. You're just going to have to deal with it. It doesn't make exception for rape. If you notice, it just says if the woman's married and having sex with another man, is found having sex with another man, she should be put to death, and so should he. But if a man comes on a maiden who's betrothed and has relationships, if within the city a man comes upon a maiden who is betrothed and has relations with her, you shall bring them both out to the gate, and they shall both be stoned to death, because the girl, she did not cry out for help. Now, how does that even make any sense? Maybe he threatened to kill her. Maybe he had a knife or some sort of object that he'd hurt her or kill her if she yelled out. Or maybe she was too scared to cry out, or maybe just nobody heard her. Now, this is supposed to be within the city. Notice how they get away with this, the city, if it's in the city walls. So supposedly somebody would be close enough to hear, but what if he threatened to kill her? Or come back and kill her? Or whatever. You keep your mouth shut. So she has to be put to death, and the man because he violated his neighbor's wife. So both of them are put up. But listen to this now. If it is an open field and a man rapes a betrothed woman, meaning engaged woman but not yet had sex, and you notice how they differentiate between a married woman and a virgin. Because a virgin is worth something. The married woman is worth nothing. She's already had sex with her husband, so she can be put to death no matter if it's rape or not, because she's old hat. Okay, so if she's in the open field and he rapes her, you should do nothing to the woman, since she isn't guilty, because nobody could hear her. But in the case like that a man rises up against, so you should do nothing to the man. Let's see. The man alone shall die. That's what it says. They should kill the man. It was in an open field. Okay. If a man comes upon a man that is not betrothed, takes her in relation, get this one, get relations with her, and their deed is discovered, the man who had relations with her shall pay the girl's father 50 shekels and take her as his wife, because he has deflowered her. Because women's only attribute is sex. Moreover, he may not divorce her as long as he lives. Yay! So she has to marry her rapist. How fun would that be? He gets to rape her for the rest of her life. Or his life. Wouldn't that be fun? If you go in front of the judge and he says, he raped me, I'm going to go to jail, and the judge says, nope, you got to marry him now. As long as he's just got to pay your father, not you, your father, money. Not your mother, your father. Even though your father probably abandoned the family a long time ago, because that's just what men do. You pay the father the money, and then you have to marry him. Yay. Um, yeah, no, you don't find that. And the Christian apologists will say, the one that'll give an answer for that, will say it was to discourage men from raping women. How would that discourage them from raping women? It's like, oh, I raped the woman the first time. All I have to do is pay some money and I get to rape her for the rest of her life. How is that discouraging? You know, it's only immoral until after it happens. And then you can do it all you want. You know, the thing with, and that's true with all women's marriages back then. They didn't have a choice. It was rape. It was just, rape wasn't immoral. You know, sex slavery was condoned by God. Bride price condoned by God. It was just awful. I couldn't imagine living back then. It's hard enough to live now being a woman. And how we're, slut shamed, and not men aren't, but women are. And, how we're like, oh, well, you were asking to be raped because of the way you were dressed. Men can go walk around shirtless in shorts, but we have to, what? Not be dressing promiscuous. They can walk around promiscuous all they want, but if we do, then we're blamed if we're raped. What? So I don't know. The laws are made by men for men to the exclusion of everybody else. And the U.S. Constitution was written by white men for white men to the exclusion of everybody else. And it was written by white wealthy men to benefit white wealthy men to the exclusion of everybody else. Little known fact, when the Constitution was first written, shortly after, the law was that only landowners could vote. So poor people couldn't vote. If you didn't own land, and it wasn't even necessarily that you were poor, you might have just moved around a lot, but if you didn't own land, you couldn't vote. And if you were a woman, you couldn't vote, and if you're a person of color, you couldn't vote. So, to the exclusion of everybody else. Anyways, that's my feminist rant for the day. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, we got 22 minutes here. Let me see if I see that bluebird again. He's floating around here. I'm wondering if maybe, oh, you know what? We got these bird houses over here. It might be looking for, to use the birdhouse. Maybe it wants to check out the birdhouses. I think I hear it. Not that hawk and not that woodpecker. Nope, I don't see it. Maybe next time.